There's something you believe about yourself that is completely dependent on something that doesn't actually exist. And if it disappeared tomorrow, you would disappear with it. This video is about money, not as an economic system, but as the invisible answer to a question you've been asking your entire life. Who am I? Most people never see this connection, but once you do, you cannot unsee it. There's something you believe about yourself that is completely dependent on something that doesn't actually exist. And if it disappeared tomorrow, you would disappear with it. Money is not real. This is not a metaphor. It is not a poetic thing to say. Money is a collective agreement, a story we all decided to believe. You can hold $1 in your hand, yes, but what you are actually holding is a promise. And what happens to a person when the thing they have built their entire life around is revealed to be a shared hallucination? This question matters now because we are closer to the edge of that possibility than we have ever been. Not because of revolution, because of technology. Because we are building systems that might make currency obsolete. And before we cross that threshold, we need to understand what we are actually losing and what we might finally be free to find. Let's start with the obvious. Without money, the infrastructure of modern life collapses almost immediately. There is no incentive to drive trucks, no reason to build hospitals. No one is collecting your garbage because the garbage collector has no way to feed their family. Within weeks, not months, we are back to a subsistence model. You grow food, you trade with your neighbor, you live or you die based on what you can produce or what you can convince someone to give you. This is not a smooth transition. This is chaos. And yes, this matters, but it is not the deepest thing happening here. The deeper question is psychological. Money, more than anything else in human existence, is how we answer the question, who am I? It is your resume. It is your status. It is the visible measurement of your worth that other people can see and calculate in seconds. Remove money, and you remove the most efficient system we have ever created for ranking human beings. And something in us both trembles with relief and breaks with terror at that thought. We do not admit this. We tell ourselves we want money for security, for stability. And this is partly true. Money is an anxiety drug. It is not a perfect one. No amount of money removes the uncertainty that you might get sick or lose your job or die alone. But it is the most sophisticated tool we have ever built for controlling the feeling that chaos is coming. With money, you can buy the illusion of control, and the illusion is almost as good as the real thing. Almost. But here's what we do not talk about. Money is also a cage. It is a cage that tells you who you are allowed to be. If you are not good at making money, then you are not good. If you cannot monetize your talent, then your talent doesn't matter. If your work cannot be sold, then your work is worthless. We have taken the entire spectrum of human potential and run it through a single filter, and that filter has broken most of us in the process. The people who thrive under this system are not the most intelligent. They are not the most talented. They are not the most compassionate. They are the people who are comfortable with competition, with hierarchy, with seeing other human beings as obstacles or resources. Money selects for a very specific type of human being, and we have built a world where only that type of human being can fully exist. Without money, something else would happen. And this is where it gets complicated. Because the vacuum would not be empty. Other hierarchies would rise, different metrics for human worth. Strength, perhaps, beauty, loyalty, connection. We would still find ways to rank each other. We would still find ways to feel small and inferior and desperate. Because this is not actually a money problem. This is a human problem. We want to know where we stand. We want to know if we are enough. And as long as we are asking that question, some system will emerge to answer it. But there is something else, something quieter. In a world without money, certain things would become impossible to ignore. The person who cannot cook would have to learn. The person who is isolated would have to find community or suffer real consequences. There would be no algorithm, no substitute for actual human connection. You could not buy your way past the hard parts of being alive. And maybe, in losing that ability, we would finally develop the skills we have been paying other people to take away from us. The question is not whether a world without money would be better. It would be different, more brutal in some ways, more honest in others, more lonely, possibly, but also more real. And maybe that is what we are actually afraid of. Not the collapse of civilization, but the collapse of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. That we are the sum total of what we can sell. That we matter because we matter to the market. We probably will never live in a world without money, but we could live in one where money matters less, where your value is not your bank account, where you are not constantly calculating whether your existence is efficient enough to justify the resources you consume. That world is not coming. It has to be built by people who are willing to believe in something else. If this video made you think, share it with someone who's always saying they're tired. They probably need to hear this. Subscribe for more awareness content that actually matters. See you in the next one.